Hello, Conspiracy Carl. Wanted to do what I think is a very important video for all you cannabis smokers out there. I myself am a cannabis user. I use it for appetite reasons and also to help with depression. I do find this a very useful herb as long as it's used and not abused. And I think that is the general gist of what most of us need to do to understand. There's usement and abusement, and you know, they're totally totally different things. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about was the fake weed that's going about now. I don't know if people have noticed, but you can go on eBay and you can buy buds of what looks, well, it's cannabis, but it has no THC, it only has CBD. Now, I have smoked some of this, I've used some of this cannabis before for eating, for foods and things like that, because it contains CBD, like I said, and CBD is good for depression, and that was what I sort of wanted it for. But as I went, you know, and looked into this more, and I found out that people were actually buying this off of eBay quite cheap, because it's, you know, just a normal cannabis bud that obviously looks exactly the same as cannabis bud, because that's what it is, but it contains no THC, only CBD. So we have got a lot of nasty people basically buying this cheaper bud with CBD on it, and then spraying it with illegal highs. I believe in America it's called Flakka or spice. Basically it's the same ingredients. What they're doing is you can also get smells today that now actually make things smell of cannabis, i.e. some people using it with the legal highs and making, you know, cannabis smell odor, you know, from the legal high. So people have cottoned onto this, and they've got the one that smells most like the cannabis, and they're obviously then spraying the buds that contain no THC with Flakka, fake cannabinoids, synthetic cannabinoids, in England mainly known as spice, but anyway, they're spraying this with these dangerous chemicals. They are very dangerous. Now, when they first come out, because I've done a bit of chemical research into this myself, what I did find out was the chemicals were very similar when they first come out. Don't get me wrong, this was when they first come out. There was ones that were very, very weak. I'll rephrase that. They were, I would say, of a more correct ingredients in strength, that would be more beneficial to people than what they did start to do towards the end, which was make them as strong as they possibly could, and of course this was having problems, you know, people were having problems with this and having episodes of complete breakdowns in some cases. People were actually getting shot and things like that in America because they were attacking people and attacking the police, but they had no idea what they were doing on these dangerous chemicals. Like I say, as I noticed from when they first started to produce the legal herb smokes, you know, the cannabinoid synthetic cannabinoids, when they first started to do these chemicals, like I say, were probably, I'm not going to say safe for humans, but definitely safer than what they produced towards the end and in the middle. They tampered with these chemicals and kept tweaking them because the governments banned certain chemicals, so then they tweaked them and made them different, and that made them legal again until somebody took them to court, banned it, you know, so then they tweaked it up again, and so of course it got to a stage where there was really, really strong versions of this around that were killing people in some cases. Some people just having a couple of puffs, and you wouldn't think that something like that could actually, you know, stop somebody's heart from beating, which it did do on a few occasions. It also put people in comas. It had a lot of bad side effects. It caused a lot of problems. Well, now, like I say, we've got people that are just driven by money and have no intent on helping brothers and sisters. None of us. That all their only intention is to make money, and no matter what the cost on the human individual that they're selling it to, that they don't give a toss about that. All they care about is that money, and that is it. If they did, then they wouldn't be doing what they're doing now. Anyway, they're buying this cheap buds, probably 10 grams is costing roughly £6-7 English sterling, spraying it with, you know, chemicals that are costing pittance. I mean, in my day when I was, like I say, I was studying things like this, the legal highs, and I noticed that people could get, I'd say, 90 to 100 grams by spending 30 to 40 pounds on chemicals, and like I say, nearly getting 3 ounces or just over 3 ounces of marshmallow coated with, you know, synthetic cannabinoids. So, as you can imagine, quite cheap. Also, when bought in abundance, it gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So, of course, you know, when people were buying this in big amounts, they were making absolute fortunes. And now doing it even more so, because now they've come across the right idea of getting buds, like I say, with no THC, only CBD, and they're spraying it with synthetic cannabinoids and also giving it a smell like cannabis. So please, 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 people, please try and keep an eye out for this. If you smoke cannabis and you're a regular smoker of cannabis, you should know pretty much the feelings that you get from cannabis, and that shouldn't be an elevated heart rate to where you feel panic stricken. Sometimes you can't breathe. It's a horrible feeling. It is nothing like being stoned. So when they said cannabinoid synthetic, I only say it was a cannabinoid synthetic because it acted on the receptors that were motivated by cannabinoids. So obviously, because it, you know, agitated these receptors or got these receptors working, that's where it fell into the category of cannabinoid, when really it was much, much worse than any cannabinoid or cannabis that's ever been produced. Even the very high medicinal strength cannabises were nowhere near anything like this, and we still don't know the adverse effects that some of these things can have in the future. As you well know, you know, some of the effects of drugs and things that you take, they don't have life-altering effects as you're taking them, or maybe not the next day or not the next year, but maybe 10, 20, 30 years down the line, things start happening in life that maybe wouldn't have happened if some of these bad chemicals could have been avoided in the first place, or we could have been educated properly enough to know these bad chemicals and to avoid them, rather than just being reverse psychology being used by certain media groups to make this legal high synthetic cannabinoid sort of sound appealing, like I say, by using the reverse psychology. They're very clever. What they do is they know that children and young people want to do what's illegal, so if they make it illegal, it's going to be more attractive to the kids. If they put it in the shops and if they advertise it on the news as it's doing this and that, and you know how strong it is, of course kids want to try it. Children are inquisitive. we all were, and you know, and if we all think back to that, we should all remember that, and just always remember that, because we was the same, you know. So it makes no point if you've got a child that's taking this, there's no point going into a rage and a temper and everything else, because your child is just doing something that's natural to them as a child is growing up. This is how mistakes are made, and we learn from our mistakes and mature, you know, and grow up into hopefully decent, kind, good citizens that we should be, and being there to help one another. So this is my reason for making this video, hoping that this information will help as many people out there to please try and look out for this fake cannabis. I wished that I could tell you something to look out for, apart from the strong pungent smell that you can get from cannabis. This doesn't seem to have that. You can get the chemical sort of smell to it sometimes. That's a good giveaway. If I do come across anything in the future that might help people to indicate this straight away and to know that it's Flakka, spice or something like that being used, then believe me, I will do a video as soon as I possibly can and update it straight away. Please be careful with whatever you're smoking, whatever you're doing, you know. We have got, you know, the government say a drugs war and everything, but they're not telling you that they're the people that actually bring in the drugs, the top CIA and all that. They were doing this years back, and they're still doing it. So what they mean by a war on drugs is it's just a psychological game that they can play with us. These people, the top people who bring all the drugs in, the top elite people, they never go to prison for it. Yet the likes of myself or somebody else that's probably got an 8-foot puff could end up doing a few months in prison. Or I've heard in America it can be even worse than that, go into a couple of years for, you know, an ounce of pop or whatever. Yeah, they'll give. I have heard in some states it can be up to life, and yet they'll give a murderer, you know, life in prison, and somebody that's got 2 ounces of puff, he'll get life as well. To me, that is absolutely shocking. It's disgusting. You know, this is a natural herb that was left to us for our use, to use for our illnesses, so we didn't have to poison our body with disgusting medications that are used not to actually cure us, but just to prolong our illness and make us worse. Think about it, people. Really think about it. There's no money for them if they was to make us better. Think about that. Yeah, they would earn no money if we was not all ill of some sort, and you know, they make us worse. It's a way of them just stringing out your illness. Some people will get better, but the percentages are nothing like what they tell you. And this goes with cancers, this goes with all sorts. There are lots of good fruits, good vegetables, the seeds of fruits, some of the barks of trees, some of the leaves of trees, of different plants. These are the things we should be eating to combat our diseases. We just haven't been given the knowledge to do a lot of this, or to know about a lot of this. One thing that I can tell you that I did learn, and it makes a lot of sense. When I was young, I was always told never to eat apple seeds, you know, by doctors, by teachers, by all that. You don't eat apple seeds, they're horrible, bad for you and all that. No. That's another reverse psychology thing. Apple seeds are actually very, very good for you. They do have some good antioxidants in them that can be cancer preventing. I'm not saying in all cancers, but in some. Then we have seaweeds and other vegetables that are high in antioxidants that are also cancer fighting. So please do the research and find out. There is so much more other things that we can be using for medication and treatment of our illnesses, other than the ones that we are being dished out, which are just poisons, and that's really all they are. Like I always say on my videos, please just don't take my word for it. Do your own research, and you'll also come to hopefully the same conclusions. If anybody has anything they'd like to add to this, to the Flakka and the weed, you know, the fake buds being sprayed with Flakka or spice or cannabis synthetics, if anybody's got any information that could be of help to myself or anybody into making this easier to spot for us all, please leave it in the comments, under swim, under whatever, but just leave it in the comments, just so it can, you know, help us to help each other. Like I said, we're all one, we're all brothers and sisters. Colour, nationality, race, creed doesn't come into it. We are all one, okay? We need to stick together and act as one, unite. Love, peace, unity goes out to all of you. God bless you.